Welcome into the Cougar Cast here at the Kokomo Post Sports. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, and this is the place to get all the information on what's going on inside the IU Kokomo Athletic Department. And joining us at the top of the show today is Grant Patterson. He is the Sports Information Coordinator at IUK. Grant, welcome back, and I hope you're finding a way to stay dry and warm because it's pretty cold outside, man.
Yeah, not only is it cold outside, it's just crappy.
Yeah.
And not fun weather to be around, but hopefully the winter storms stay away and we can host some sporting events later this week.
I sure hope so because the men and women both play at home this week. Guys, we'll touch on that later in the show. But Grant, before we look ahead to the weekend, let's backtrack and look to what happened last week. The men's basketball team, currently on a 5-game winning streak. Last week got wins over Rio Grande and Ohio Christian. What did this team do last week to win both matchups?
I think, first of all, the big thing is those are two solid squads that you pick up wins over to extend the win streak to 5, and now we're above 500 in River State's conference play. So that climb has continued after dropping the first two. And Rio Grande is not only a well-coached team, but they play hard, and they've got some athletes from not only all over the U.S., but all over the world. I know one of their best players, their point guard, Tadic, he's from the Netherlands, and they're just super talented across the board. So to win that game pretty handily, we had a double-digit lead for most of the game, and then I think we may have won by single digits, but that doesn't reflect how distant the game was for a majority of it. So to win that game against Rio Grande during the week last Wednesday, and then to go to Ohio Christian and play a squad that has greatly improved over the past even the couple of years. I know they lost their talented coach in Casey Coons, but they picked up where they left off, and their new coach took over a program that was developing. They got a couple grad transfers and some solid players all around. So to pick up, it doesn't matter how big of a win it is. A win is a win in River State's conference play. So 70-68 or 80-78 win, I believe. So 2-point win, that's all that matters. A W is a W.
You know, those wins, when they're close like that and you gotta grind it out at the end, that's what really helps teams in conference tournament later on this season or even the national tournament if the men make it that far. The wins like that, when it's close and you got to kind of grind it out, they definitely help you in those bigger games when there's a trophy on the line.
Yeah, not only do they build camaraderie amongst the team and coaches, but the experience, as you just mentioned, it just helps as the season goes on. As the season goes on, you get more games mean more. And we're battling for a top spot in the River State's conference tournament, and we know with that comes home court advantage throughout the tournament. So we knew we started off on the wrong foot, getting better, won 3 straight conference games. So as you said, close games, they matter when it comes to March and the NAIA tournament. So I think it'll help them as the season goes on, and another big home game this week against a talented team, so that'll only help them moving forward.
Now, Grant, I'm going to ask you to look ahead a little bit more with the men. We do this a little bit here, trying to get some dates on people's calendars so they know when games are coming up. The volleyball team got to host in the conference into the national tournament. The soccer team, women's soccer team, got to host I believe it was in the conference tournament all the way up to the championship game.
Yep.
Is it looking like the men's basketball team will have a chance to host any portion of the conference tournament?
So I would say I would expect us to host at least the quarterfinal game, starting off, as we mentioned earlier in the show, that we lost the first 2 River State's conference matchups. So that you start off on the wrong foot, but 3 straight wins. I think there's a good chance we host the quarterfinals. And if we continue to play like this, I would say if we don't drop another River State's conference game, which will be tough considering the talent in the league. But if we go and run the table from here on out, we should host every game of the tournament. So I would definitely expect the River State's quarterfinal game to be at home, but then you'll just have to pay attention to the website and social medias to see what goes from there.
I was looking at some numbers with the men's basketball team as far as stats. I lost track about how many double-doubles Max Newman has on the season. I see he's averaging 14 points, 11.5 rebounds a game. Ty Willis is also doing very well. I think he only played 1 game. So that 1 game he had 14 points, which is still huge. Noah Harris is there. There's a lot of guys that are contributing on this team. Is that something that you see not just in 1 game or 2 games, but all over, like over the span of 5 games? Do you think that they probably have 3 different guys that are leading scorers in that stretch?
Yeah, I think we're noticing a rhythm and a pattern, I would say. So both Noah Harris and Max Newman have been dynamite for the Cougars pretty much all year, and I think we're starting to see that those are our 2 leaders, not only on the court, but off the court as well. Max Newman is simply put a bad man.
Yeah.
A double-double after double-double. It looks effortless at times for him. It looks like he doesn't even have to try, and you look at the box score, and it's 15 and 12 like he had last week against Rio. So definitely impressed with him. And then Noah Harris has been a key cog in the offense and the team as a whole, his whole career here. He's a junior, so we knew what to expect from those two. And then Hunter Jackson has stepped up. He's been really shooting the three ball well, and that's helped. We can stretch the floor. We know we have talented big guys, but if we can shoot the three consistently and knock it down, I think the sky is the limit for this team. And then Del DeMyers, what can we say about him?
True.
He stepped up in a huge way. Really, since winter break, he's been stellar, both offensively and defensively. We knew he was talented defensively with the long wingspan, racking up plenty of steals, but he's turned it up on the offensive end. I think he had 19 at Ohio Christian, his second leading scorer. So if those four guys keep that up, I think we have a bright future.
Before we go to the women, Grant, when is the next time the men will be on the basketball court?
Yeah, so the men this Saturday will kick off a 3-game home stretch. This Saturday they'll host St. Mary the Woods College, and that is a huge matchup. We recommend you get out there for the women's game starting at 1. The men's team is 5-0, or the St. Mary the Woods men's team is 5-0 in River State's conference play, so they're either tied at the top or by themselves at the top. So that would be a huge win for us to chip away at the lead of the leaders in the conference and give ourselves a chance to host those tournament games as we talked about. But then both the men and women will also host Alice Lloyd next Thursday. I believe that's the 18th. And then on the 20th, they'll host West Virginia Tech. So plenty of opportunities in the next week and a half to catch your basketball Cougars in action. Might as well stop on by the Student Activities and Events Center.
Let's move on to the women's side of things. Last week, the women ended up playing, I think it was a double header for both matchups last week. Rio Grande and also Ohio Christian. I keep wondering and also hoping they kind of get some of that success they got early in the season.
Correct.
Do you think that there is a chance that could come over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a chance. And Saturday's loss at Ohio Christian was a tight game against a talented Ohio Christian team with some experienced players. And I think the final score was 67-61.
Yeah.
So a hard-fought game, had the lead at times in the second half. Just a couple shots here and there. Ohio Christian really shot the lights out. They're a three-point shooting team, and if they're hitting from beyond the arc like they were, it's a tough team to beat, especially on their home floor. So we saw that. That was probably our downfall Saturday, was defending the three-point line, but we're building on those, and those string together strong games, and I think eventually we'll see the losses turn into wins and stack some more W's in the win column.
You know, also this week, and I do believe it's on Saturday, I believe I saw that on the website actually when I was preparing for this show, the indoor track and field team, and I want to say this is the first time that they're competing in the new year. They have an indoor meet and invitational, the Sean Brady Alumni Invitational in Angola, Indiana. We've talked about them a few times. Every time we do, someone's breaking a record or almost breaking a record. Numerous people are getting first place, second place finishes in their meets. This coming weekend, I don't know as far as the talent that is going to be there, but I think the expectation is going to be the same, that the Cougars that will be competing, they will do amazing things.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a different one. In sports like track and field, you'll travel and you won't just compete against NAIA programs. So Trine is a Division III program that will go up there and compete in their invitational this weekend. And to some outsiders, you may think, well, this track and field program isn't very old. Of course, they're breaking records every week. Well, for some, that may be the case, but in our program, it's simply not. The amount of athletes we have that are so talented, and the coaching staff they work hand in hand to build up these student athletes. Like I said, we always talk about on the track and in the field, but it's also in the classroom. They work so well together, and I think we're going to see that continue to pay off. A long indoor season turns into a long outdoor season, so their season is about 4 or 5 months long if you combine the two, and I think we're going to see even more records broken this weekend before another meet, as they compete just about every weekend now.
You know, that's one thing that I like about track and field in college. When I was in high school, they did some indoor track and field meets, but it wasn't expected. And it was a newer thing for high schools at that time too, to do indoor meets and then also go and do the outdoor stuff in the regular season that's already on the schedule. It's a fun thing for these athletes now on the indoor track and field team. It's getting you not so much a preseason view or an exhibition. It's getting you real live action preparing for the outdoor season. Yes, more eyeballs will be on the outdoor, but this indoor track and field season is great because it allows you to compete and also test yourself against other people, not just at your current level at IUK, but also those that are in higher divisions in the sport.
Yeah, and like you said, some view the outdoor track and field as more of the championship season, but the fact that indoor is now a championship sport in both the conference and the national national scene with the NAIA, so they'll have a chance to compete in the River States Conference Championship in Logan, Ohio. And last year we saw great things from both teams. And I think with the talent level that we brought in, along with a couple transfers and the talent that we already had within the program, we'll continue to see both teams rise. And I think we'll see a good amount of student athletes compete in the NAIA National Championships indoors in Brookings, South Dakota. And then you go into a full outdoor season where they'll travel to Myrtle Beach on spring break week and compete against Division I athletes. And I know last year we competed at Indiana State against more Division I athletes. So the talent level that we're able to compete against is pretty insane considering the enrollment and the amount of student athletes we have compared to schools like Indiana State and those that compete in the Myrtle Beach Spring Break Classic. So the indoor season is a bit of a precursor for the outdoor season, but it also is a championship season in itself.
Yeah.
So we're competing for titles both conference and nationally, and we'll see what our athletes can do.
Is the expectation from you, I'm not asking for Coach Colvin's expectation or those of the athletes, do you expect players, athletes in the indoor season on the indoor track and field team to win first place at the indoor championship, assuming that some make it there?
Yeah, I definitely think so. The cool thing about the conference tournament is the whole team will be able to compete. There is no precursor. They don't have to make it. So our women's throws team, and I think our men's too, I think we're pretty dominant in the throws aspect. Okay. And I know we talked about Coach Nolan Talley, but the rest of the staff and Coach Fivecoat and Colvin, they're so talented. The sprints are coming along with Coach Talley. And I think we've talked about the talent we've earned from Mississinawa High School. I mean, it's impressive. And Hayden Nelson, Trayvon Hess, Braden Biddle, and we're going to see that continue. I think they'll help out the men's squad immensely. And I think the women's squad may be able to compete for a conference title with the likes of the UND transfer and Hannah Wells. So I'll be interested to see what's accomplished, but I definitely expect some first place finishes and some conference titles, whether it be individually or team.
Last thing here for you. I asked you about it last week, and I don't even know if it's been released. Actually, two things. About esports, do we have an update on the schedule for the spring?
Not quite. I would expect that to be, they didn't necessarily start the season at the beginning of the school year. And with us just starting classes on this past Monday, I would assume that the season would probably start in the middle of February.
Yeah.
They have a couple activation weeks. So I'm expecting to hear some news from Coach Leahy here soon about their activation weeks as well as when they will start play. But we won't know schedules until they complete the activation week.
Last thing, we always want to open the floor up to you, Grant. Last comments. Do you have any? Or not, I know you got something to say. You have a lot to say. What are some last comments you have about what's going on right now inside the athletic department?
Yeah, I touched on it before. In last week's episode, we have baseball starting, and I think it's 3 weekends from now. Women's tennis is just over a month away, and then the golfs will be hitting the course end of February, early March, I'm assuming. So we're getting into spring sports season, but there's still so much more to catch on campus at IUK. We don't host any indoor track events, but we compete pretty much exclusively in the state of Indiana and indoors, and heck, Logan, Ohio is not that far of a drive for River States Conference Indoor Championship, so if you feel like supporting them, make the trip. But most importantly, this Saturday, we need your help in the Student Activities and Events Center to cheer us on against St. Mary of the Woods. As I touched on women's, they're trying to get back on track, and I think they can accomplish that Saturday. But then the men's game at 3 o'clock, looking to knock off an undefeated team in River States Conference play. It'll only help come postseason, and I'm expecting a big turnout from you guys.
I really appreciate Grant Patterson for coming on the show once again. He is the Sports Information Coordinator at IUK, and this has been the Cougar Cast, guys. We'll see you next time.